Jeremy Lee Quinn is back again, and whenever he's on the channel, I shouldn't say that word. That was my best impersonation of a bleep and the shit word in one.
You're gonna say some shit's gone down or something.
Yeah, something's going down somewhere when Jeremy is on the channel. So, Jeremy, you have been at the We Spa. What are you calling them? Protest riots? I don't know what are we calling them at this point.
It was a riot. It was clearly a riot. It was a protest that was shut down. The people who came to protest were conservatives, and the people who shut down the protest were part of a new Twitter account in the first 2 months that organized it and called for direct action, and that was an account called SoCal Antifa. So there was no bones about it, as to who was showing up.
Okay. Yeah. So we should tell people in case they're unfamiliar with this. This is the headline that NBC ran 5 days ago. Protesters clash outside Los Angeles spa over trans woman disrobing. The video I heard of a woman complaining was basically saying that this male to female transgender person was in the women's locker room area, if I'm understanding correctly, and basically was showing male genitalia walking around in the women's area. And then the customers got upset, and then this ensued. So since you've been in the middle of it, why don't I show people your video too? Because I think we're probably going to get a lot more out of it. So this is
a young.
I don't know, Jeremy, if you want to turn the sound down on it, because I don't have control over that.
Okay, so that was a first beating of one of the organizers, a young Latino man. This is 2 Latino evangelicals being attacked here.
What precipitated this?
As of now, it's a unilateral attack. Up until this point, this is a right-winger who retaliates here, and I'll explain. So, I say the Patriot Bloc assailant also clubbed a Newsmax reporter. Okay, so the young man that you saw beat up, his name is Jairo, and on Twitter, they've been going after him ever since he announced this protest and said he was going to be the organizer of this protest. He's the one you see kicked and beaten up. What happens before that is he arrives with his signs. The black bloc comes in, they take the signs and start to rip him up. He does something which I called him on when I interviewed him. He produces pepper spray pretty quickly. And he doesn't just stand there. He walks up and brandishes it and shows it to them. They then come in and respond the way that you saw, and he lets off a little bit behind his back as they're tackling him, and then they start kicking and beating him. The bombshell, the surprise here is this young man has lived with the trans community and was housed as early as 2017 while he was simultaneously a supporter of conservatism. He was housed at the Hollywood LGBT Youth Center. So as I interviewed him, he started going into very knowledgeable details about trans culture and talked about the funeral of his friend who was a trans woman who passed away, and they had a big memorial on Santa Monica Beach. And I was thinking to myself, this doesn't fit the profile of what the SoCal Antifa people are saying, that this guy is some sort of religious fascist. Now, the second and third people that you see beat up, because that's always their justification, fascism, right? The second and third people that you see are Latino.
Should we watch it again while you're talking?
Sure, why not? I'll talk over it this time, so we'll take another look.
Okay.
This explains the situation pretty accurately, I think. Now, what you're seeing is a bus passes by, and you're going to see Jairo running out from the right. That's him. Now he's towards your left. You could see sort of his signs. He tries to pepper spray there. He had brandished it earlier. Now he gets beat.
Dang. Oh, my God. And then
again,
the press comes in.
Well, see, it's unclear who this press guy on the left is, because he's dressed in press block, let's say, press black block. You know,
It's the new fashion.
no, yeah, he's
Press block.
definitely in block. I don't when I go to these things, I do not dress like that. Now, the man on the right in the suit and tie is security hired by the spa. This is just on the opposite side of the street of the spa, I believe. And the man in the suit is security from the spa who is running in, and then you can see somebody cradling Jairo there as he is in the fetal
Who's this
position.
guy with the tie?
Yeah, that's the security guy. So I think there's two guys with ties there. You see on the left and also on the right.
Right.
They are private security. The spa was shut down for the day, and they hired private security to be outside. And so that's the private security that rushes over. Now, that was 9:44 a.m. Now we're going to jump to about 10:28 is what my phone says when I shoot the following video. So this is beating 7, 2 and 3 Hispanic evangelicals.
What were those guys doing before? Were they just preaching with a microphone or something on the corner?
They were trying to just arrive. This is all happening as people try to arrive at the see a block further. This is one block east of the Wee Spa. So you can see the Wee Spa to your left in the distance. And this is a compressed shot in which we're looking from the east. And these two Latino evangelicals are walking from east to west. The one has just been picked up from the curve. And then the second one here, so that's the second man that's attacked. Because the first one was the young, who formerly, I don't know if he still does, but he identified as queer. The first kid, the young kid that got attacked first. He's the one who I was talking about, was formerly housed in the LGBT community.
Okay.
Number 2 here, and you could see that there's Antifa-aligned press that is surrounding here. These are all people that are recording that are not releasing video of these incidents. And I'm currently in a Twitter war of words, as you would, with a lot of these individuals that you see surrounding, because they call me a fascist for releasing this video, and I call them not journalists for not releasing it. So
yeah, I'm showing some of that right now. I think some of this is what you're talking about. I've been seeing...
that's my guest on a podcast later over there that you scroll down to. You
are in my video recording at Why Do You? Is this them here?
Yes. So this is a third account I had to make because, of course, they block the original one. So you make another account to respond to them while they're talking to you, and then retweet it on my original one. You have to jump through steps to defend your name here on Twitter because they're blocking you and preventing you from joining the conversation while they smear you and say you're what you're not. Now, this is a young Latino couple, a man and a woman who were then attacked. They say they support trans rights. But why don't I play it from my side here because I had it all
you do that.
kind of queued up. Am I still in the queue here?
Yeah, let me.
We
is this the first video still? This one?
Yes. So this is a second person who steps in. That person in the green was the aggressor. Did the first pushing in this volley. Now, as I say here, a person of color in flannel and patriot hat supporting the organizer named Jairo, he's the young kid, clubs a SoCal Antifa-aligned press. So the guy holding his helmet there just got clubbed in my video by someone in a flannel shirt. And this is, we see him so he was aligned with the organizer and retaliating for the beating that the organizer got at the beginning, from what we can tell. And I'll play this on. He does a little victory dance here. But before he clubs this guy, he actually clubs a Newsmax reporter first. So he ends up getting somebody from the right and the left. as this guy in the flannel comes in with a hat that says Patriot. I call Patriot Black Bloc. When they're in black bloc with a signifier, the Proud Boys did this on January 5th and 6th, where they're in black bloc within a little signifier as to who they are. So he does this little victory dance in the street, and that's Hyro right there on the left of him. So who had just gotten beaten up 45 minutes earlier. So you can see how this gang warfare kind of escalates, because within 45 minutes, you get 3 unilateral attacks. Now the right starts to respond. And pretty rambunctiously, as they first club a conservative Newsmax reporter before this guy clubbed the Antifa-aligned press in black bloc who's wearing the helmet. But he you could see he has, it looks like Oakleys maybe, which are a common right-wing kind of thing that you see showing up. And that hat says Patriot on the back. I just realized I'm unplugged. Give me one sec.
You're good. Well, anyway, I'll carry it for a second because I think what's interesting, I'm just going to add this back. This is NBC's coverage from a few days ago. So, Jeremy, I'm just curious what you think about this, because it says video showed demonstrators clashing with each other and with police. Protesters' chants included "Save Our Children," another expression affiliated with QAnon. Did you get a sense that there were QAnon supporters there?
There could have been. You know, the right wing was very small. So what I just showed you, the first 45 minutes, that's all a half hour before the right wing rally was supposed to coalesce. So that all is prior. The people that do show up, one is a preacher that gets bloodied in a blue shirt, and he has a couple of evangelicals with him. That anybody was explicitly QAnon, I think, would have to be a leap. That's a reporter wanting to tie "Save Our Children," which is a hashtag, a right-wing hashtag, and the QAnon people do use it, but that does not mean that these people are QAnon. You would need evidence of that. I didn't see a single shirt that said Q sent me or anything like that. These were people that, and let me tell you what this incident is about in the first place. And I've been speaking to people in the trans community, both militants, non-militants alike, though the people I have talked to who are militant about this see this as an expression of trans militancy. And the
what is the expression? The person who was in the actual spot that started it all?
The attacks on people. In other words, I spoke to an organizer, a community organizer, and she told me that the trans community has been persecuted by historically by the religious right, and therefore this was a way of making their voices heard. And at some point, what do you do? Now, I then presented, well, the first person that was attacked was formerly housed by the trans community. Does that complicate things? There was a little bit of awkwardness when I brought that up, because certainly that was something neither of us expected. My position on this is denounce all violence, that all violence breeds more violence. As we saw that accelerate during the day, you showed the couple that was attacked. Various women were chased out and were pelted with plastic water bottles and doused with water, and had skateboards, pushed away and bullied in that way. And this escalated until at 11:45, the right wing showed up, a more militant group, and was in full street melee with the SoCal Antifa Black Bloc. So is it accurate?
Get the fuck out of here!
Is this it, Jeremy?
So this is the same situation. He had just clubbed the Newsmax reporter. Now he's going after the Antifa reporter right there. That's the right winger. That's the right winger in Patriot Bloc. And you could see Hyro, the young
meanwhile, Los Angeles drivers are just like, this is just another day in Los Angeles,
I guess. And so into 11 a.m.
Yikes.
Here you have.
We come
in peace. This is who are these people?
So each of these people showing up are showing up to protest. Now this is where the rhetoric gets out of hand. Online, it becomes hashtag save our children. That's a dog whistle for QAnon. Then it becomes people are projecting pedophilia onto trans community. And what I did see one or two signs that said something about pedophilia. So this upsets the Black Bloc. They said, don't you know that this has nothing to do with pedophilia? And they're saying, and that couple that I interviewed said, well, it can lead to that. It can lead to that if people with male genitalia are allowed on the female side. That was their position when I talked to them. Now, me just having the conversation with them makes me a heretic to this activist left or an apologist for fascists. So I'm getting all this heat online because of that, but I'm pretty impervious to it because I understand this situation well, what's going on here in the sense that Asian spas, when I was in Japan as a kid, I remember going with my dad to an Asian spa. Traditionally, Korean spas, like Japanese onsen, the men and the women are kept separate. Now, if you want to translate that to a more modern vernacular, you could say those with male genitalia are kept on one, are bathed together on one side, and those with female genitalia bathe on the other side. That's how it is in traditional Korean and Japanese spas. Now, because of California law, when you had this incident, the law, and a trans activist told me, named Jamie Penn, who is an Antifa-aligned trans activist, told me this is the law of the land at a federal level as well. The Supreme Court challenge was not heard to this. When it comes to public spaces, you cannot discriminate but as to how people identify. What makes these Asian spas culturally significant is people aren't just dressing and changing or using the bathroom. They're bathing together in the same hot water and cold water baths. So if somebody with male genitalia were to walk into a hot water or cold water bath where there are teenage girls or children, that is very possible in this situation because it is a family Asian style spa. This is a point that has been lost by everybody in this dialogue, which is that traditionally you separate by genitalia in bathing situations of public bathing. Now,
I see. So you're saying it's not just like they're in the locker room and that's the only place where this would happen, that people are fully nude in the actual bathing
and then in bathing pools. So some of these people are showing up to say that's too far. Now, the trans activist that I spoke to said people need to be normalized to this. And this seems to be, this is what was told to me by the trans activist who was there, but also by the trans activist organization that was not there, that said they did not show up on purpose because they knew it was going to be crazy, but they believe that this needs to be normalized. Now, I would say moderate positions would maybe say, people of genitalia should, stay on separate sides. So it is an expression, but SoCal Antifa was on the side of trans militancy in saying that it is transphobic to suggest otherwise. And then you have the rhetoric being taken up to 11 when it comes to, people talking about pedophilia or save the children or all this other stuff. It becomes two sides just yelling at each other. Usually that did not happen because they weren't given a chance. This is another woman who showed up to protest and she is just ushered away. And you could...
Were there people who were sort of in the middle that were like not going to the pedophilia side, but were like, it's just inappropriate for my, 11-year-old daughter to see that, right now? I'm just curious, like, was it just these two
well, see, nobody had a chance to say anything because the second they arrived, the young man who organized it, his sign said something about trans activism stepping on women's rights. That in the activism circle is known as TERFism, T-E-R-F, trans exclusionary radical feminism,
Right.
I believe is what it stands for.
Yep.
And it's used as a slur against people, usually even on the left, who are against or who are saying who they portray as being against trans rights. Now, these people, a lot of them might say they are for trans rights. This person may not, because this is an evangelical. I don't want to stereotype. I didn't talk to him. There were evangelicals. Some of them were saying, Jesus go to hell stuff. That is true. I'm not going to paint them as anything other than they were, but the end result is still the same. On the left, you see the preacher, and this is the first preacher I saw pushed, while the two Latino evangelicals, you don't see him in my video, he was the first one who was pushed. And this is about a half hour later. I was over on the other side interviewing one of the trans activists. This man gets bloodied by skateboards, and this is SoCal Antifa taking responsibility. They say, we've been asked if we have any regrets from yesterday, and nah, we're pretty satisfied. The street preachers deserved what they got. And then you see some kind of crazy goofy or whatever this is with blood on his head saying, I'll fucking do it again. And then at the bottom there, it says, and Jairo deserved it too. Jairo is the young... formerly LGBTQ housed, housing insecure young Latino man who they beat at the beginning, who was the organizer of this. So the big sort of conundrum here is you had both sides essentially attacking their own because they were so blinded by ideology, labeling, and rage. You had the Black Bloc attacking a young Latino kid who has a history of being with the LGBT community and housed with them and having trans roommates and going to a funeral with the Trans Latina Coalition on at Santa Monica Beach to say goodbye. And this was confirmed. I got this confirmation in the trans community, that this funeral to say goodbye to a trans friend of it. He had numerous trans friends. And he was in the closet about being conservative. Point that I'm trying to make is this violence is absolutely stupid. It's stupid because it's ginned up online by people who are trying to pull clout and label anyone who says anything against them as a fascist or a supporter of white supremacy or transphobes and anti-trans militants. It goes on, and you are shamed and silenced if you speak out or try to have a reasonable conversation, as I have, when it comes to this issue, which is in my community, not only that I live in Los Angeles, but my culture as well. As I said, I grew up going to family spas, so I think I know something and would like my voice to be heard as well. But if I were to try to speak in this situation, I would have gotten beaten up just the same. Anybody who was against them was a target, and they showed it with efficiency and stridency on Saturday, July 3rd, when they launched these attacks. Now, does that make the right guiltless? Of course not. I pressed the organizer. I said, couldn't you have done more to de-escalate the situation and make sure that people weren't retaliating on your behalf with knives and metal batons? And so there is not a good hero amongst anyone that I saw.
This video, like many on my YouTube channel, has been cut short because YouTube is a whiny baby when it comes to sensitive topics, and I should know that because I'm the mother of a toddler. So if you'd like to see the entire chat with Jeremy Lee Quinn, you got to go to my other platforms. The links are in the description.